Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana, Brajajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav, Jaya Radha Madhav. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Tagore Premananda Hari Bol. Thank you so much for being patient. We'll say one line, we'll repeat it 3 times. You can repeat it after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. So today we'll be reading chapter 2, titled Contents of the Gita Summarized, and we'll be reading from verse 2. So I'll read the verse and you can repeat after me one by one. So I'll repeat each line and you can repeat after me. And we'll do it 3 times. Thank you so much. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmala Medam Vishame Samupashtitam Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam Akirti Karam Arjuna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmala Medam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam Akirti Karam Arjuna. Would anyone like to give a go? This is a super safe space to try out some Sanskrit and recite a nice verse. Please don't be shy. Go for it. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmala Medam Vishame Samupastitam Anarya Jushtam Aswargyam Akirti Karam Arjuna. Would anyone else like to give it a go? That's completely okay. I'll read the translation of the verse. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." So before we read the purport, we can just seek some blessings from yourself, from those who've joined online, and from the teachers that have shared this wisdom with us. If you know the prayers, you can join. If not, that's completely okay. Even just by listening and setting an intention, it's also very sweet and relishable. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much for everyone who's joined, and thank you for those assembled online as well. Genuinely and sincerely seek for your blessings to be able to say something useful and to be a useful, pleasing instrument. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So I'll read the verse again and we can read through the purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal or pervasive spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, this conception of the absolute truth is explained thus. Vadanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yajñanam advayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavaneti shabdyate. The absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. One who studies the sunshine is only the preliminary student. One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced, and one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature may be compared to those who can realize only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. The student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to the knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the supreme absolute truth. Therefore, the bhaktas or the transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagavan feature of the absolute truth are the topmost transcendentalists, although all students who are engaged in the study of the absolute truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different planets are not in the same category. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parashar Muni, the father of Vyasadeva. The Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned, and very much detached, but no one can claim that he possesses all riches, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayan, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore, it is concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord or Bhagavan, known as Govinda, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord, Govinda, and the cause of all causes, Brahma Samhita 5.1. In the Bhagavatam also there is a list of many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. Ete chamsha kalapamsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indradi Vyakulam Lokam Mritayanti Yuge Yuge. All the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the source of both the Supersoul and the impersonal Brahman. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjun's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the word kuta, wherefrom. Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth, Vishnu or Bhagavan, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are called non-Aryans. Although Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryans. Such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. Thank you so much for being patient through such a nice but long purport. Prabhupada's always packed it with so much to understand and go through. So before we begin, is this anyone's first time in a Bhagavad Gita class or hearing about the Bhagavad Gita? Awesome. So hopefully what we share today will be something that's relatable. You feel like it's always your first time. That's such a nice mood to have. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita, the Shastra is always ever relishable, always ever fresh. Thank you so much. So, just to give some context, at the end of chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, or in the chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is told by Arjuna to place the chariot between the armies. And Arjuna sees his loved ones on both sides of the battle, and he becomes really overwhelmed with compassion, and he displays arguments of why he shouldn't fight and why he actually doesn't want to fight. So Krishna's there patiently listening, and this verse in chapter 2 marks the beginning of his response. He guides Arjuna not just to look beyond his emotions, but also to understand what the purpose of life is and why he should fight. And he does this by revealing truths about three things. One is about himself, one is about the soul, and the other is about the world around us. And by knowing these three things, Arjuna is able to understand why he should fight and what's the higher spiritual vision and the outcome of this fight. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions something very interesting. He mentions Aryan civilization. So, as Krishna begins to respond to Arjuna's hesitation, he challenges Arjuna's mindset by using the word anarya. So that means one who doesn't know the value of life. So he's saying that this response that you have doesn't befit someone who knows the value of life. So this actually sets the foundation of the message of the Bhagavad Gita, which is to understand what the purpose of one's life is and how to find it. So there are two kinds of civilizations we can understand. One is Anarya and the other is Arya. Kesha Maharaj really beautifully words something that really sticks out, which is we are the prison maker and the prison guard of the very prison that we are prisoners of. And those who are in the Anarya way of life, who are in the Anarya civilization, they unfortunately forget that they're even imprisoned in the first place. And so they start trying to run after material goals, and without knowing that the real aim of life is to realize the absolute truth. And we see that even the modern civilization that we have nowadays, even though it's so materially advanced, we have new technology, we have easier ways of living, we see that actually all of that reflects an Anarya way of life. All of that is believed around this belief that there's no life after death, and all of this is around this understanding that let's just enjoy as much as we can right now, because there's no life after death. But actually this mindset is what keeps us really bound. This mindset keeps us bound by this, keeps us bound and is driven by this ignorance that, by ignorance of who we truly are and what life is really meant for. So we forget that we've created this prison, but we also need to get out of it. On the other hand, an Arya civilization is someone who lives with a higher purpose. So they know that life is meant for self-realization. They know that this prison is something that they've created, but actually that they do want to go out of it, and they can get out of it. And they can let go of these material attachments and become freed from the cycle of birth and death. Now that's the path of real progress. That's what a real civilization means, Arya civilization. So we hear Krishna say to Arjuna, this way of responding is not befitting a man who knows the value of life. But what is the value of life? And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita kindly explains, Vedeshta sarver ahameva vedyo. Vedyam. The value of life means to know the Vedas. Krishna says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. And Aryan civilization understands that the purpose of life is to understand the essence of the Vedas. The essence of the Vedas is to understand Krishna, to understand how to build that relationship with Krishna that was already there, that was dormant. So if we're serious about understanding the Vedas, Krishna also gives us intelligence. Even that is so kindly supplied by him. Mata smritir jnanam apohonam cha. This means that Krishna gives us the intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And if we're sincere, he'll give us the intelligence, and he'll give the mercy where we can be engaged in devotional service. And understand that the essence of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. And he also provides the process, which is bhakti yoga. Now, in chapter 7, there's a really nice verse. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyante vasudeva sarvameti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. Krishna here says that after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Now, we talked about this Aryan way of living. We talked about understanding that the essence of life, the value of life is to understand the essence of Vedas. But sometimes we forget that and we become complacent. But actually this verse acts as a reminder to have an emergency consciousness, to remember that this human life is very, very rare. And actually, we've gone through 8.4 million species of life just to obtain this one human life. So why waste it? Why waste it in anything that's not related to Krishna consciousness, anything that doesn't help us understand what realization is, understand what the realities of this world is? Now, Krishna expands a bit further. He says that he's actually surprised. Krishna is a bit surprised. He doesn't really understand where Arjun's sudden weakness is coming from. Imagine, Arjun is the most famous spiritual warrior. He can hit arrows, he can hit targets even in the dark. He's the most devoted, most compassionate, but all of a sudden he's becoming weak. And Arjun's surprised, Krishna's surprised, and he uses the word kuta, where from, trying to understand where this weakness is coming from. And we of course understand that Arjun is spiritual, and he's, by his great compassion, displaying these emotions, and he's displaying these questions as a way to encourage Krishna to speak the Gita, to speak the Bhagavad Gita, which is actually for our benefit. But even from this interaction, we can draw out a very nice lesson, which is when Arjun was overwhelmed, Krishna was there to guide him, to realign him. So we can understand that when we are making decisions, we shouldn't let our emotions inform. We shouldn't let our emotions form our decisions, but rather let them inform our decisions. Because what happens is emotions are natural; they're a part of us. But if we let them impulsively dictate our decisions, we may regret later on what we're deciding, and we may regret the outcome. But rather, if we understand through spiritual truths, like the way Krishna did, Krishna helped Arjun calm down first emotionally by revealing the consequences of his decisions, and then he grounded him in spiritual truth. If we do the same whenever we're having those times when things feel overwhelming and difficult, we'll be able to strengthen our intelligence, calm ourselves down, and understand how it is that I can make the best decision for myself right now. And we'll also feel very guided by Krishna as well in our decisions. So the Bhagavad Gita is really a nice tool. It's a manual. It's helping us to understand how we can ground our emotions, not become overwhelmed, but also understand through spiritual truths how to uplift our emotions and also make decisions with a sense of clarity. One thing that we also notice in Srila Prabhupada's purports is Krishna's referred to as Bhagavan. And throughout the Gita, Krishna is constantly referred to as Bhagavan. We see that the verse says Bhagavan Uvacha. And Krishna is not just a energy, Paramatma, but he's also a supreme person who holds all the opulences. You probably know someone who's super famous, but are they more famous than Krishna? You probably know someone who's super wealthy, but do they have the most amount of wealth, even in comparison to Krishna? All the opulences that we have in this material world is still very much limited and a subject to time. But Krishna has all the opulences in the most unlimited, infinite, and fullest extent. So that's why he's Bhagavan. He's the supreme person. He has all 6 opulences to the fullest extent. So no one, not even Brahma or Shiva, can be equal to Krishna. And even they don't have all these 6 opulences in fullness. So that's why Vyasadeva writes Bhagavan Uvacha. The person who's giving these instructions to us is supreme. He is without any defect. He's beyond the material world, and his instructions are one that fully and entirely benefit us in the whole, in the larger scale of life. And this establishes Krishna's authority, establishes the importance of Krishna's presence in our lives as well, and in his instructions too. Now, one thing I was hoping to discuss with all of us together is the school of realization. In the purport, Prabhupada gives an example of the sun. Anyone remember the sun analogy? Anyone would like to give a trial to remember the sun analogy? You can give parts of it, no pressure. Go ahead. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. The sun's surface, those, yeah, that's so nicely described. Thank you. We have an attentive listener. So kind. Yeah, we have the sun analogy that Prabhupada describes so nicely. And actually this analogy talks about the school of realization. We will now move on to this point about what is the school of realization. And as we said, Prabhupada gives this analogy of the sun, and he tries to highlight 3 phases of realization: Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. And we're going to understand this a bit better through another analogy called a train analogy. So I want you to imagine 3 children or 3 students waiting at a train station. And they're all waiting for a train to arrive. Now, the first student, the child, will hear the sound and see the light of the approaching train. And he'll be like, I've seen the train. And when he goes back to tell his family asks, describe the train. He'll describe the light that he's seen of the headlights, and he'll describe the sound of the train. So this is correct. He has, in some sense, seen the train, but it's very incomplete because we know that there's so much to a train. So he's only grasped the light and sound. But let's remember, there's 2 other children waiting there. So there's a second student there. He's waiting at the station, and he waits a bit longer than the first one, just to see a bit more clearly. And then he sees the train go by. And he sees that the train has engines, the train has carriages, the train has wheels, the train has a certain color, has a certain structure. So he'll quickly run to his family and say that I've seen the train. And when his family asks, okay, describe the train to me, he'll describe all those things he saw, the engine, the wheel. And he also heard the light. He also saw the light, and he also heard the sound of the train. But he also saw what the train looks like. But again, that's not the full picture, because, again, we have another student waiting at the train station who's actually seen the full picture. The third student waits patiently. He sees the train arrive, and he sees the train stop at the train station, and he also meets the driver of the train. And he shakes his hand with the driver. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki jai. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Gauranitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we have this third student that's waiting at the train station, and he sees the train arrive and stop at the station, and he meets the driver of the train, and he shakes hands with the driver, and he builds a personal relationship with the driver of the train. Now, when this third child goes to his home and he describes the train to his family, he describes everything in its fullness. He describes the light, the sound of the train, the carriages, the wheels, but he also describes the people he saw inside the train. He describes how there was a driver who he's now best friends with. So through this train analogy, we can see the same thing, that there are 3 schools of realization. One that correlates to Brahman, one that correlates to Bhagavan, and the third that correlates to Paramatma. The other way around, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So all 3 of them are correct. All 3 of them have seen the train, but it's an incomplete understanding, because some have seen the train only in certain ways. So the depth of perception increases by the patience and proximity of one. Because the more patient they are, and the closer they get to the train, the fuller picture they get. So that's the same in spiritual life. So these 3 types of students can be described and remembered using an acronym, SEE, S-E-E-E. No, S-E-E. So the acronym stands 1, spectator. That is one who's attained Brahman realization. 2 is examiner, one who's attained Paramatma realization. And 3, engager, one who has attained Bhagwan realization. Now, just like school, college, or university students, we see that all of them are students, but they have different, capabilities or understanding or levels of understanding and advancement in the topic. So that's the same with the Absolute Truth. All of these 3 students are students, but they all have different levels of understanding. Now, the less intelligent people will argue which realization is better. This one is correct, this one is complete. But those who are perfect seers of the Absolute Truth will realize that all of these are just different perspective views, or different perspective views from different angles of vision. And those who are seeing it from this perspective as an engager, those who are the engager students, will actually realize that they've seen the full picture. They've seen Bhagwan, Paramatma, and Brahman all in once. So let's expand a little on each of these phases and understand them a bit more in detail. What is this Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan realization? Now remember S. What does S stand for? Anyone remember? Yeah, spectator. So this spectator student is one who's attained what realization? Brahman realization. So the Brahman realized student is a bit like a spectator. they see only the light and they only hear the sound of the train. So that's the same with one who's only seeing the impersonal, all-pervasive energy of the Lord. And they don't grasp the full picture of how the Lord is a person. They just see it as energy. Because they've seen the absolute truth from a distance, they've only achieved a sub-aspect of the absolute truth. And that sub-aspect is this understanding that beyond this material world, there must be something eternal. So they've only achieved Sat realization. Sat means something that is all-pervasive and eternal. Now, Brahman realization is the first stage of realization, and it's when one transcends this material life and understands that there's something eternal, spiritual, and that's why they've achieved that Sat realization. But if one only stays at Brahman realization, one can actually fall down, because there's the whole point of Brahman realization is one slowly goes to Paramatma and Bhagwan realization. So this means that one's understanding is complete. Whereas if one simply stays at Brahman realization without being engaged in devotional service, then one only stays in incomplete understanding. Now we have the examiner student who attains what kind of realization? Yeah, Paramatma realization. So after Brahman realization, one starts to become an examiner, and they start seeing the world around them, and they start seeing, this is very intricately made, and this seems to be like someone who's behind all of this. So they see that there is a supreme being who is consciously overseeing and coordinating the world. And he's present both throughout the universe as energy, but he's also lying within my heart as the Paramatma, in his four-handed Vishnu form, like a localized aspect. Now, at this stage, one comes to this level of Chit realization. So this is understanding that absolute truth is not only eternal, but it's also conscious. It's also observing the world as a witness, and it's also controlling material nature to keep it in order. So the examiner student has so far attained the Sat Chit realization of the absolute truth, but even that is incomplete. The final realization is one attained by the engager student, who's attained Bhagwan realization. Just as the third child in our train analogy was waiting patiently, he met the train driver and understood the full story. The student beyond Paramatma realization begins to wonder about the Supreme Personality's personal nature. What does he do? What is he like? And starts to realize that Krishna is a person, and a supreme person who lives with his devotees and performs many pastimes, and he rejoices eternally. So now there's some understanding that the absolute truth must have a quality of bliss. He must have a quality of happiness. And now one comes to Ananda realization. So this is the fact that the Lord is all blissful, and now slowly one wants to taste that bliss, taste that happiness, and so desires to be engaged in devotional service. At this point, the student has full realization of Krishna, and also itself in realization to Krishna. Now, what does this mean for devotees? For devotees, they see the absolute truth in all three forms completely. They see that Krishna is the complete energetic person who has many separated energies working in its different ways to facilitate different desires and pastimes. But they also see that Krishna is simultaneously present in the spiritual world, but they also see that Krishna is present within their heart. Once Bhakti Chara Maharaj was asking Srila Prabhupada if people see Vishnu within as Paramatma form, the four-handed, and Srila Prabhupada kindly replied, yes, but in yours is the two-handed Shyam Sundar form. So actually within the devotees is the two-handed Shyam Sundar form. And they realize that Krishna is there within their hearts, and Krishna is there outside through his spirit energies facilitating, and Krishna is also there in the form of God, taking care of everyone. So Bhagwan is the ultimate understanding of this absolute truth, and it can only be realized through the process of bhakti yoga. Therefore, those who are devotees, who are Krishna conscious, actually are the topmost, because they've achieved the realization and perfected this rare human life that we said is very, very rare. Now, Bhakti yoga is the highest and simplest path. A bit difficult to believe, no? We have to go through all these realizations. But actually, Bhakti yoga gives us Bhagwan realization directly. We don't have to go to Brahma and Paramatma. We can go directly to Bhagwan realization. We don't need to go through this whole yoga ladder. Which actually may take up many lifetimes and actually may distract us, tempt us in many different ways. But instead, we can go and directly practice Bhakti yoga. All these yoga systems are actually essentially coming to this point of Bhakti yoga. And that's the only place through which one can understand who Bhagavan is. Who is Bhagavan and how is he playing a role in my life? And what is my relationship with him? So we can take up to this process of Bhakti yoga, especially through chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, and especially in this age of Kali Yuga, which is very difficult to overcome. But just by chanting Hare Krishna, we can attain the highest realization in the easiest way and perfect the human life. But even in Bhakti Yoga, a lot of us are practicing, and we notice that Prabhupada said 1 second, but it's taking me so long. When someone asked Prabhupada, how long will it take me to become liberated and become fully Krishna conscious? Prabhupada said 1 second. But we see that 1 second is taking a bit too long to arrive, at least for me. But that's okay, because it's natural that in Bhakti Yoga there are obstacles and tests that prepare us for that 1 second to one day come. But those obstacles and tests are inevitable, but they're also a blessing in disguise. And perseverance will help one overcome those obstacles and tests. Just when Arjun was feeling overwhelmed by all these obstacles in front of him, of fighting, of especially the ones he loved, he persevered through. He persevered through all those difficulties and just tried to do his duty. I remember my mentor saying something that really stuck out to me, and it was a really nice line. It was, persevering through purification leads to progress in the development of purity. So perseverance through purification leads to progress in the development of purity. Bhakti yoga will also have its difficulties, but it's still the highest and easiest method because these obstacles are inevitable. But we have this gift of something that can help us overcome those obstacles. And we can, by persevering through, we can naturally allow our mirror of heart to become purified and clean. So, if we take up to this process of Krishna consciousness sincerely and be engaged in devotional service through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, then by hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, remembering Krishna, we'll see that all these obstacles, all this purification that we had to go through is actually a blessing. A bit hard to realize, but it's a blessing, and it actually has helped one become empowered to go through the difficulties of life and move ahead and develop the spiritual purity of heart. So we talked about the school of realization. Students can progress through this level, through different levels of understanding, from Brahman to Paramatma, and ultimately to Bhagavan, the Supreme Person. But the intelligent student is one who sincerely practices Bhakti Yogi. He is productive and takes up the direct path which leads to a complete understanding of the absolute truth. And he achieves the highest realization through devotion. And what's the fuel of the student? The fuel is their sincerity and eagerness, and the fact that they're persevering through purification and gradually progressing in developing and cleaning their heart and developing some purity. Now, we're all enrolled in the school. We're all in the school of realization. And Mahaprabhu, who's the most merciful teacher, and the representatives of Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, they've given us the easiest method of chanting and distributing the holy names of the Lord. And that's our daily homework. Our daily homework is to try to chant and distribute the holy names of the Lord one day, each day, with more sincerity, attention, and eagerness. And by doing our daily homework, we'll be able to graduate from the school of realization with the highest degree, the highest realization, which is pure love of Godhead, pure love for Krishna. So we hope that the school of realization is one that we all graduate from together, and that the mercy of Srila Prabhupada carries us through. I really hope that this discussion helped deepen some appreciation and understanding of Bhakti Yoga, some appreciation and understanding of how much Krishna supplies and gives, but also is arranging everything perfectly and spotlessly in a certain way to facilitate us, to bring us back to Him. And that this direct process of Bhakti Yoga is the only solution. And by hopefully we can also appreciate all that Srila Prabhupada has done to make this process available to us through his struggles and sacrifices. Thank you so much for so kindly and tolerantly, patiently hearing, and I really pray that this was of some use. I now open it up to all of you for questions, even answers, corrections, and any comments. And again, express my deepest gratitude and apologies for any mistakes made as well. Any questions, comments, or corrections that come into mind? No pressure. So we'll have some kirtan then. We'll do some kirtan just before 7 p.m. Sandhya Arti. And if there's anything that comes into mind after class as well, we can also discuss it then. But yes, anyone would like to lead kirtan by chance? Okay, you'll have to patiently tolerate me. Thank you so much. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Gokulananda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitya Gaura Premananda, Hari Hari Bol.